And we are coming on the air right now with the breaking news that the pioneering musician Prince has died at the age of 57.
I was at home and I heard it on the news. But we spent a lot of time together. There was a portion of our lives that we spent together, and we were seeing each other every day. I could not tell. I never had an inkling, not even a suspicion, that this dude was dropping even an aspirin.
Chaka Khan just confirmed what we thought about Prince's death, and it changes everything. For years, fans suspected foul play. The elevator, the silence, the missing security. Something about the way Prince died never added up. But now, Chaka Khan is speaking, not in vague riddles, but directly.
This dude broke both his ankles at the same time.
She saw what happened to Whitney. She knows what happens when you say too much, and she knows who trained Diddy.
I met him before I ever knew of him. I met him when he was 21 years old. And we talked for hours and hours about music, and I bought into his dreams. And I financed Bad Boy Records. And we had an incredible run, an incredible period.
Prince died in the same elevator he once called the devil. And now, Chaka Khan is dragging those devils into the light. And as Chaka breaks her silence, fans aren't just listening. They're rewatching everything. Because if she's right, then the clues were there from the beginning. Prince was always private. But in his final years, he got even more guarded. He stopped showing up at parties, refused to take industry meetings, and started issuing strange warnings about handlers, masters, and the people who take your voice. And then, in April 2010, he was gone. Found lifeless in an elevator inside Paisley Park, the same elevator he once called the devil.
He said, "You know what the elevator is, right?"
No.
I said, "No, what's the elevator?" He said, "Well, the elevator is the devil."
Officially, it was ruled an accidental fentanyl overdose, but those closest to him weren't convinced, especially Chaka Khan. She knew him well, spent time with him, shared books, ideas, hours of deep conversation. She called him a genius, not just musically, but spiritually, intellectually. And as someone who battled addiction herself, she swore up and down. She never saw Prince take anything, not even an aspirin.
I could not tell. I never had an inkling, not even a suspicion, that this dude was dropping even an aspirin.
Chaka wasn't alone. L.A. Reid, one of Prince's longtime friends, publicly said the same thing. In a chat on CBS, L.A. Reid spilled the beans that he believed Prince was all good in the health department. The guy was health conscious to the max, vegan lifestyle, no alcohol binges, and definitely not known for popping pills. But here's where it gets really odd. The interviewer asks Reid about Prince's health problems, and L.A. Reid's like, "I don't know." He spills the tea on how Prince's commitment to staying healthy actually freaked him out. Like, if you're doing everything right, eating green, pumping iron, the whole deal, and still kick the bucket early, what's the deal?
What I know is that he was really health conscious. He was a vegan. He didn't abuse alcohol. I didn't know of him abusing drugs. That also really concerned me because it made me think that, wow, so you mean you do all these things to take care of yourself and you die so young?
Now, there were whispers that Prince wasn't doing so hot in the weeks leading up to his departure. Canceled shows, emergency landings, and a dose of an anti-opiate. Things were clearly off. But here's the head-scratcher. If he OD'd less than a month before, why wasn't he under the watchful eye of a doc? I mean, common sense, right? The fact that Prince wasn't getting the medical TLC he needed is raising some eyebrows, especially when you consider the business side of things. If you're booking tour dates, you'd want to make sure the headliner is in top shape, right? No unexpected cancellations, especially at the big venues. It's like we're missing a crucial piece of the puzzle here, and the mystery of Prince's health just keeps getting weirder. Also, this Prince mystery, seriously, it's like a plot straight out of a thriller movie. So, here's the thing. Prince was found in the same elevator he once called the devil. Yeah, you heard that right. Reid spilled the spooky details on CBS, and it's enough to give you chills. You see, the circumstances surrounding Prince's death inside an elevator were particularly eerie, according to L.A. Reid, especially given Prince's known apprehensions about elevators. As depicted in the following video from E.T., Prince's friend Reid discussed the unsettling discovery of Prince's lifeless body in an elevator.
One time when I was with him privately, he said, "You know what the elevator is, right?"
No.
I said, "No, what's the elevator?" He said, "Well, the elevator is the devil."
According to E.T., Reid shared Prince's aversion to elevators. Prince held a belief that elevators were sinister in nature, often referring to them as instruments of the devil. This perspective on elevators was encapsulated in Prince's 1984 song, "Let's Go Crazy." In the song's lyrics, Prince likened elevators to malevolent forces that might attempt to bring a person down. He sang about the struggle to ascend by pressing a higher floor button, symbolizing his defiance against the negative influence he associated with elevators. Reid recounted a conversation he had with Prince regarding the artist's feelings about elevators. This discussion left Reid feeling uncomfortable, as it delved into the topic of the devil, something he was uneasy discussing. The news of Prince's lifeless discovery in an elevator on the first floor of Paisley Park, Prince's residence and studio, deeply perturbed Reid, given the context of their previous conversation. One time when I was with him privately, he said, "You know what the elevator is, right?" I said, "No, what's the elevator?" He said, "Well, the elevator is the devil." It scared me. I don't like to talk like that, but he said that. So for me, it was like really haunting when I read that he was found in an elevator. But the oddities don't end there. People are really confused about why Prince was alone at Paisley Park. Sure, he was incredibly private, but seriously? No servants? No security? No assistants? Nothing. It's looking pretty suspicious. I mean, you'd think someone would be around, especially given his status. And then it gets even weirder. There were rumors and predictions that Prince was heading towards some sort of destiny. His last Instagram post, right before his unexpected death, had people talking. It was a picture of him with the caption, "Just when you thought you were safe." Now, Prince was known for being cryptic, but this post had folks thinking he knew something was coming. Plus, it turns out he might have predicted his own death, not once, but twice. At a party at Paisley Park just days before he died, Prince reportedly told everyone, "Wait a few days before you waste any prayers." So how does a man like that just drop dead with fentanyl in his system? And no one around to catch it? That's the part fans still can't shake, especially when you zoom out. Because just months before his death, Prince had finally done the impossible. He'd won back his masters from Warner Brothers, and he wasn't planning to stop there. He was gearing up to go fully independent, release directly to fans, mentor new artists, break the system. The same system that people now say Diddy helped build. And here's where it gets real dark. Prince had been warning artists, people like Janelle Monáe and Lauryn Hill, to stay away from industry parties. Said they kill real artists. Now, with Diddy's trial revealing how young stars were drugged, filmed, and blackmailed, those words sound more like a warning we ignored. And when Chaka Khan found out, she wasn't just shocked, she was furious, because Prince had never shown signs of drug use. And now, knowing what she knows about the people who surrounded him, the same people who surrounded Whitney Houston and tried to control her too, Chaka started naming names. The courtroom wasn't even the scene. It started in the comment section. It didn't come from Chaka Khan herself. It came from her daughter, Indira Malini Khan, who decided enough was enough. When Diddy's apology video went viral in May 24 after CNN released the now infamous hotel surveillance of him beating Cassie, Indira left a comment that stopped people mid-scroll. She said, "I'm glad this is happening to you. You got in my mother's face and publicly disrespected her, yelling and screaming like a lunatic." She wasn't done. Indira then revealed that when her younger brother, Damian Holland, just 19 at the time, stepped in to protect their mother, Diddy's security allegedly jumped him. This wasn't some random bar fight. This was Chaka Khan, the icon, the legend. The woman known across generations for shaping the sound of soul and funk. And now her name was linked, in the middle of a federal investigation. But Indira didn't want remorse. She wanted the truth. And the comments section lit up. Fans started piecing it together. Chaka had long-standing industry ties with both Diddy and Clive Davis, and the fact that she stayed quiet, even after that moment, raised questions about who was protecting who. To make things even murkier, some conspiracy theorists began dragging up Whitney Houston's name. The theory? That Whitney knew too much, and that Chaka, as one of her closest friends, might have known too much too. Was it all speculation? Maybe. But that didn't stop the momentum, especially when footage and transcripts from whistleblowers like Jaguar Wright began circulating again. In one interview, Jaguar claimed Whitney had written a cryptic note and passed it to Brandy, a note that later ended up in Ray J's hands before her death.
She gave that note to Brandy. Brandy read the note, got scared, and went back and told her brother Ray J what Whitney told her, because her brother was dating Whitney at the time. I believe Ray J went back and told Diddy what was in that note, and I believe Diddy went and told Clive Davis.
For context, hours before Whitney's tragic death, Whitney handed a note to fellow singer Brandy. A note that most people now believed contained a warning.
I stopped it. All of you.
It sounds wild, but when you look at the names piling onto the trial's witness list, it doesn't seem so far-fetched anymore. Chaka's name may not be officially called yet, but fans are already asking, what if she saw more than she's ever admitted? In 2012, the Through the Fire singer called out Clive Davis for partying when Whitney Houston, it was announced that Whitney Houston had passed on. To make matters worse, the party was at the same venue that the songstress breathed her last. To be precise, it was just a few floors below Whitney's suite. Chaka Khan didn't understand the logic behind Clive Davis's party when his mentee and signee was struggling for her dear life. She called out the music executive for being insensitive to the plight of his employees. Khan thought that Clive was insane for going ahead to organize a party at which the deceased singer was supposed to perform. Chaka Khan had planned on attending Davis's annual party, but she admitted that she was paralyzed after being informed of Houston's death upon her arrival in Los Angeles. She also lashed out at those who were responsible for Bodyguard actress in the city for a full week prior to her pre-Grammy performance.
That was the first big mistake, for her to come in an entire week before her performance at the party. I'd have never done that.
She explained that it wasn't appropriate to allow someone who's recovering from addiction to spend a whole week by herself in a hotel. Using herself as an example, Khan revealed that she often would arrive in the city a day before or on the same day she was billed to perform. This way, she was sure to avoid getting tempted to go in for drugs. I, too, was an addict, and I know if I was on the set of a movie, even now, and I've been recovered for 7 years, and I found out that I was coming to a city like LA, we would have made specific plans that I come in the night before or day of performance, she said. Especially if you have not gone in and got proper treatment and gotten your situation handled. That was the first big mistake. For her to come in an entire week before her performance at the party, I would have never done that. She then blamed her handler, which in this case includes Clive Davis, for everything that happened to Whitney Houston.
Whoever flew her out to perform at that party should have provided someone to be there.
In any case, when Indira said she was singing and dancing over Diddy's downfall, it didn't sound like a distant celebrity comment. It sounded like someone with a personal score to settle, someone who had seen too much and finally felt safe enough to speak. But Indira wasn't the only one who had been holding back, because long before the public ever questioned Diddy's power, Katt Williams was already talking, and unlike most, he wasn't guessing. He says Prince told him everything. In a 22 interview with Arsenio Hall, Katt revealed that he was inspired by Prince and even spent 5 years as a rapper before moving to comedy. This journey began after meeting Prince at age 12. Katt said this meeting happened in Dayton, Ohio, where Prince was performing. Katt feels like he knew Prince his whole life and saw him as a mentor who boosted his confidence. He credits Prince for his swagger. In true Katt Williams style, he described Prince as a high thinker who was always ahead of the game. While everyone knows Prince was a musical genius, Katt shared how Prince taught him to embrace his uniqueness. According to Katt, Prince's message was, "You can be short, light-skinned, with long hair, and as long as the ladies love you, who cares what others think?"
He was a high thinker and a guy that was always 30 steps ahead of whatever the curve was.
Some fans are connecting the dots between Katt saying Prince was always 30 steps ahead and the cryptic stuff Prince said before he left us. People are throwing around theories that maybe Katt was clued into something Prince knew, something sinister, like folks plotting to take Prince out. You know how Prince was known for dropping cryptic lines, and some believe he might have let Katt in on the scoop. Prince allegedly possessed detailed information about these events that made him increasingly determined to warn other artists about the dangers they faced. The severity of Prince's concerns gained validation when federal investigations began examining allegations of and racketeering connected to these industry gatherings. Prince's warnings carried particular weight due to his specific knowledge of Diddy's business practices and private gatherings. While the exact details remain sealed, the information Prince held made him a potential threat to powerful industry figures. This knowledge may have contributed to his increasing isolation in his final years. Following Prince's death, Diddy's public statement about being heartbroken drew criticism, particularly from Katt Williams, who highlighted how Diddy's actions had consistently worked against Prince's interests. This disconnect between public statements and private dealings exposed deeper issues within the entertainment industry's power structure. The conflict between Prince and Diddy represented a fundamental divide in the music industry between artistic freedom and corporate control.
There's a disintegration going on that we really have to address.
Prince's warnings about Diddy's business practices pointed to troubling aspects of the entertainment world, particularly regarding exclusive gatherings where young artists found themselves vulnerable. These private parties became central to understanding why Prince felt compelled to protect others from the industry's dangerous elements.
So I think that we should address this as a community as to what it's doing to the culture.
While the industry's elite hosted parties that preyed on young talent, Prince created exclusive gatherings called 3121 that became a sanctuary for artists seeking to escape the darker side of fame. What happened behind those doors would expose a deep conflict within the music industry. The 3121 parties provided safe spaces where creativity flourished without exploitation. These invite-only gatherings attracted artists seeking genuine connection and collaboration, far from the predatory atmosphere of typical industry events. Attendees focused purely on artistic expression and mutual support, sharing ideas freely without fear of manipulation. The industry's notorious freak-off parties, particularly those associated with Diddy, operated differently. At these events, young artists faced pressure to participate in illicit activities, with drugs and sexual exploitation becoming common elements. We didn't know this before, but now we do, thanks to the recent allegations on Diddy that has brought concrete evidence to the public.
And alleges that Combs threatened and coerced victims to get them to participate in the freak-offs.
Many felt their careers depended on attending these gatherings, creating a cycle of manipulation. By establishing 3121 as an alternative to exploitation-filled industry parties, Prince challenged the established power structure. Katt Williams later suggested that Prince's creation of these safe spaces made him increasingly dangerous to certain industry figures, as he directly threatened their system of control. As artists shared their experiences at 3121 gatherings, a clearer picture emerged of the industry's darker practices.
He was so good at that, man. So good at like taking a line that maybe people would say and then making it into something that everybody now associates with him, you know.
Prince's understanding of these activities, combined with his influence and independence, positioned him as a potential threat to those who benefited from the existing system. Prince used his influence to warn other artists about certain industry gatherings, protecting younger talent from the exploitation he'd witnessed. Now, with Diddy facing explosive federal charges, including coercion, abuse, and use of private footage to control others. Prince's warnings sound like prophecy, but if you really want to understand how Diddy got so much power, you have to look at the man who gave it to him, Clive Davis. The same Clive Davis who signed Whitney Houston. The same Clive Davis who partied while her body was being rolled out of a Beverly Hilton suite. And the same Clive Davis who mentored Diddy, funded Bad Boy, gave him a label deal, and taught him how the game really worked. Back in the early 90s, Diddy had just been fired from Uptown Records. He had talent, ambition, and a growing crew, but no label to call home. So he turned to Clive, and Clive said yes. He backed Diddy's vision for Bad Boy, gave him millions, and according to several insiders, taught him more than just business. Because Clive wasn't just a music exec, he was the exec, the gatekeeper, the man who held the careers of TLC, Whitney, Brandy, Alicia Keys, and more in his hands.
I met him before I ever knew of him. I met him when he was 21 years old. And we talked for hours and hours about music. And I bought into his dream. And I financed Bad Boy Records. And we had an incredible run, an incredible period.
But what people didn't know then, but do now, is that Clive Davis had secrets of his own. In 2013, he released a memoir revealing that he'd secretly dated men throughout his career.
My story was different. I just found that I would open myself up to the possibility of a relationship based on the person and not on gender.
For years, there had been rumors about powerful artists, including Diddy, being initiated into the industry through private encounters. Some claimed Clive played a role in those rituals, and suddenly, his confession added fuel to a long-burning fire. Because now people were looking back at Diddy's rise and wondering what it really cost. The rumors say Diddy had to submit to Clive, not just musically, but personally. Some claimed there was a 5-year relationship. Others said it was transactional, that Diddy did what he had to do to build his empire. Either way, by the time Bad Boy exploded, it was clear. Diddy had learned Clive's playbook: control the artists, control the catalog, control the parties, control the silence. And when Prince started breaking out of that system, exposing contracts, owning his masters, telling other artists to run, he became a problem. The same way Whitney had become a problem when she went broke and started making calls to her old friends. In fact, some say Whitney's death was the blueprint for how to make a loss profitable. In 2012, the Through the Fire singer called out Clive Davis for partying when Whitney Houston. It was announced that Whitney Houston had passed on. To make matters worse, the party was at the same venue that the songstress breathed her last. To be precise, it was just a few floors below Whitney's suite. Chaka Khan didn't understand the logic behind Clive Davis's party when his mentee and signee was struggling for her dear life. Chaka Khan is renowned for her bold and outspoken persona, never shying away from addressing issues she feels strongly about. One notable instance was when she criticized Clive Davis for hosting a party at the Beverly Hilton just hours after the sudden death of Whitney Houston. During an interview on CNN's Piers Morgan Tonight, Khan expressed disbelief and disapproval, calling Davis's decision complete insanity.
I thought that was complete insanity. And knowing Whitney, I don't believe that she would have said.
In her candid remarks, Khan reflected on Whitney Houston's character, suggesting that Houston would not have wanted the show to go on under those circumstances. Khan's critique highlighted the insensitivity of hosting such an event in the same building where Houston had passed away, especially considering the profound impact Davis had on Houston's life and career.
The show must go on. She's the kind of woman that was like, stop everything. I'm not going to be there.
The 10-time Grammy Award winner had originally intended to attend Clive Davis's annual party, but was deeply affected upon learning of Whitney Houston's death upon arriving in Los Angeles. Chaka Khan expressed feeling paralyzed by the news. She also criticized the decision to have Houston in Los Angeles for a full week before her pre-Grammy performance, particularly given Houston's history with addiction.
I couldn't put on makeup. I couldn't get dressed. I couldn't do anything. I was paralyzed. I couldn't do anything.
Reflecting on her own experiences as a recovering addict, Khan emphasized the importance of proper planning and support for individuals in recovery. She believed it was a mistake for Houston to be in Los Angeles so far in advance of her performance without adequate support or treatment. Khan further suggested that those responsible for bringing Houston to the city for the performance should have taken better measures to ensure her safety and well-being, emphasizing the need to keep potentially harmful influences away from her. Khan's comments opened the floodgates for several criticisms directed at the founder of Arista Records. Many fans claimed that Clive Davis appeared to be expecting Whitney's demise, which explains why he partied even when the body was being conveyed from the hotel to the morgue. The music executive was dragged on social media, with many fans calling for his head. Some even claimed that Clive Davis had a hand in the demise of Whitney Houston, given that the singer was more valuable unalive than alive. You see, a few years before the demise of Whitney, she was broke and neck-deep in debt. The singer who had sold millions of albums was now a poor wreck asking friends and families for $100 handouts. Many people wondered where all her money went. She had now become a liability rather than an asset to her record label. So, according to Deep Throat sources, Clive and his cohorts thought that the only way the singer could become profitable again was when she passed away. They knew that once the world heard of the singer's demise, its sympathy would be evoked, leading to a sudden rush for Whitney's albums. They believed this rush would spike album sales, helping them recoup all the cash they spent on Whitney. They even had a perfect example, Michael Jackson. A few years before MJ's passing, he was struggling to hit the heights that everyone knew him for. His albums weren't performing well on the market, and his physical constraints wouldn't allow him to perform as he used to. However, when he passed away in 2009, his album sales skyrocketed, and he made more money for his bosses than when he was alive. The whole incident eventually dragged Davis's name in the mud, and he purportedly decided to punish Chaka Khan, the instigator of the backlash. Meanwhile, rumors suggest that Davis sought to remove the legendary Queen of Funk, Chaka Khan, from the industry. Allegedly, this action was prompted by Khan publicly exposing Davis and his questionable conduct within the music industry. In any case, Prince didn't just make music, he made enemies. He fought for ownership, for truth, for freedom, and in his final months, he made it clear they were coming for him. Chaka Khan knew it too. That's why she spoke out. That's why she refused to celebrate in the same building where Whitney's body still lay. That's why she's still being punished behind the scenes. Because the moment you stop playing the game, they come for you. And what happened to Prince? It wasn't an accident. It was a warning. Now that Diddy's trial is peeling back the layers, exposing everything Prince said about secret parties, exploitation, and corporate silence, we're finally seeing the truth. Chaka Khan didn't just confirm what we suspected. She confirmed what Prince died trying to say. And if the industry thought it buried the truth with him, they forgot who was still watching. Anyway, that's it for this video, folks. Bye.